for the Grumpy Old Man Festival. And I'm here with Chad Lewis, a lumberjack historian, all the Midwest lumberjack lore and such. So how you doing today, Chad?
Oh, it's great to be here in Minnesota. Beautiful, hopefully spring day coming.
Hopefully soon to get rid of this cold weather. I just sat through the lumberjack and lore seminar that you just did. Very interesting. A lot of stuff that I didn't know. How did you get into researching all the lumberjack and lore history in the Midwest here?
Traveling through the Midwest, I would stop and talk to old timers who would spin tales of the lumber era and working in the lumber mills and cutting down the trees. And I was just fascinated by how much of this we're losing, how much is no longer remembered from new generations. And that's what got me interested.
Oh, interesting. So like you mentioned the Lost 40 up in the north, that's still old growth, that a lot of those woods have been cleared out. It's important to know the history, even if it's like mythology or such, it still pertains to like what's going on in Minnesota today, right?
Most people know of Paul Bunyan, but they're not familiar with the jackalope or the hoop snake, all these Minnesota-based creatures that were thought to be roaming the Northwoods. And a lot of people just don't realize how big of an impact the lumber industry had on our state in those days, that everything was made of wood and we'd sell so much of it. It was the economic engine of the Midwest.
No, very interesting. I did see the everything made of wood, houses, tools, and then I was very interested by the mythological creatures you had. It almost was like a Dr. Seuss novel. You know, how did you researching and finding all these different types of creatures?
The lumberjacks created all these unbelievable monsters to explain things that were going on in the Northwoods. When trees were cracking, they said it was a splinter cat running in, or the mosquitoes could be so gigantic they'd come down and grab you and pull you off the riverbank. So they often did this to kind of scare the newcomers, the rookies, the greenhorns, and get them in camp and say, watch out because the hoogag's coming or the hodag's coming after you. So they had their own culture, their own beliefs, their own language, their own monsters, if you will.
Very interesting. There's a lot of culture, a lot of legendary stuff here talked about. We're got to move on a little bit, but tell the folks how they can find you and more knowledge on this history of lumberjacks and such.
Sure, find me. Just go to the weirdest legend you can think of. That's probably where I'll be. I'll be out there on the road. But the Minnesota Historical Society has a plethora of great resources on Minnesota lumberjack history. So I would recommend checking them out.
Perfect. Well, enough of that. We'll go on to get more activities here at the Grumpy Old Man Festival, and I'm kicking back to you in the studio, Jesse and Olivia.